Good morning from sunny Kieler, Woche in the north of Germany. My name is Andy Rice, and I'm actually talking to you from Winchester in the UK. And joining me is Ben Ramoka from Vancouver in Canada. Now, Ben, welcome back on the call. It's tough for you because it's in the middle of the night for you. What always impresses me is that whatever class we're about to talk about, and today it's the 49er FX skiff for the women, we always put the name of that class in front of class manager. So we've talked about 49ers and NACRAs, and today we talk about 49er FX. You're always the class manager. Are you in charge of all Olympic sailing, Ben Ramoka?
Not yet, Andy, but these three classes are all under one umbrella, and lucky for me, I get to work with them all the time. So yes, it might seem a bit redundant, but it doesn't extend to all 10.
Okay, not yet, as you say. All right, well, we'll talk about global domination on another day. Let's focus on what we've got coming up today, which is the women in the 49er FX skiff. And we've got some of the best in the world. We've got Tamara Echegoyen and Paola Bartello. They are the reigning world champions after winning in Geelong at the beginning of 20. And we've got plenty of other talent in this fleet. Annemiek Beckering and Annette Dutz, double world champions. And a few names that have taken us both by surprise, like the Italians, Jana Germani and Giorgia Bertuzzi. So we have yet to find out much about them, but it's not been easy conditions over the last few days. So how a team that we know so little about manages to finish qualifying in the top three is quite amazing. So they seem to have got to grips with what we consider to be a very tricky boat quite quickly, it seems.
Yeah, it's been 2 days of qualifying. They've had 7 races in the qualifying series. And, as you say, Andy, there's many of the top teams in the world here. But we do see a new team in Germani and Bertuzzi from Italy. They finished the qualifying in third, and they didn't have a great race in the first race of the day. We should say that we're going to be joining the coverage here on race 2. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see a new fleet. There are a number of teams who are already aiming at Paris 2024 coming up. That said, the Italians can still qualify for the Olympics at the last chance European qualifier, which should happen early in 2021. So maybe it's not too late for them, and we'll have to get to know them a little bit better.
Yes, well, if I make it out to the European Championships in Austria in a couple of weeks' time, maybe I will get to see them there. Let's just update you on what happened this morning. So today is the first week of Gold Fleet Finals. The 52 or 53 or 51 in total. And this morning it was Steph Roble and Maggie Shea from the USA who won the first race of the morning. Let's just see how long we've got and if we can bring you highlights. We've just about got time to do highlights of what happened yesterday in the NACRAs. Let's see if we can run you that, and then we'll talk you into the start of race 2 of the 49er FXs.
Perfect conditions for the Formula One of sailing. The breeze blew up to 15 knots from the west, but the speed and direction was ever changing on the choppy waters of the Kieler Fjord. Spectacular, unpredictable, nasty.
These are very tricky conditions and the competition is very high. Even if we haven't been racing for a while, we are all in the same level and very tight, so we need just to sail well.
World champions and Olympic champions on a competitive start line. The NACRA 17 catamarans are the fastest boats in the Olympic lineup, with up to 50 kilometres an hour possible on the downwind legs. It's not only about reading the difficult winds on the fjord, but also about keeping these flying monsters under control.
It was a tricky race because of the wind, very shifty here, and you have to wait for your opportunity and take it one at a time. Don't rush and be patient until the end.
4 races were on the schedule today, and there were 4 different winners. Consistency in a fleet of this quality, only a fool would place bets on the outcome. The first race was won by Italy's Tita and Banti. Race number 2 went to Germany's Koloff and Stuhlen. Home advantage taken and used at every opportunity. The local team withstood the pressure and collected important points on the road to 2021 Olympic qualification in Tokyo.
The
fun factor today was just amazing. With major gusts, it was so hard to see. And you could tell that the whole fleet was struggling.
In race 3, the wind increased and the conditions became more violent. Winning here requires not only good sailing skills and decisions of absolute precision, but also a sprinkling of luck. Right before the finish, the reigning world champions from Great Britain, Gimpson and Burnett, surged past for the winner's gun.
Well, we really hope that other organisers can look to kind of emulate this event and follow in their footsteps, because I think they're making it work safely, and that would be the goal.
At the end of a spectacular 7th day at Kieler Woche 2020, the Italians Tita and Banti retain their lead, followed by the Kiel locals Koloff and Stulemmer, and the British battlers Gimpson Burnett in 3rd.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that action yesterday. If you got to see it live, Ben and I really following the Nacros, and we've got great breeze again today. We've got 16 to 18 knots from the southwest, which is plenty to. Well, there you see some of the excitement. Just a brief look at a capsize. So someone's on their side with just 1 minute to go. So that's not going to be great for them, whoever they are. We'll try and identify them. But you can see how breezy it is. It's a step up from the day before when we were watching the Nacras. So really testing conditions. Not surprising to see that the British Charlotte Dobson and Saskia Tidy are doing well, and also Ben, you know the form book very well in this fleet. Steph Roble and Maggie Shea, they haven't been in the class for that many years, but they really seem to be mastering these conditions these days as well, the Americans.
Yeah, they had a fantastic World Championship in 2020 to very narrowly win the U.S. selection bid, and we're 20 seconds to the start now, Andy, as all the teams start to line up. Even I think it was the Swedish who might have been capsized, have managed to recover and get going as we get ready for the race.
Very conservative starting here. It doesn't look like anyone's going to be that close, but is there much point when it's this windy? It's going to be a good start for Denmark 11 off the pin end. For Sweden 15, it's a good start for the British GBR2. It's good. I see the Stars and Stripes coming off the line very well, and further up the line, the Argentinians also off to a really good start. So they're all up to full speed now, but I really like the start of the Americans. We're on board now with Susan Boyka, who just moved into the overall lead of this regatta after finishing in 3rd place in the previous race. So Lutz and Boyka, this is a critical regatta for them. They have to win selection to go to the Olympic Games. It's their 3rd Olympic campaign together as a team, and they have yet to represent Germany. So they have got the bit between their teeth. They are sailing their socks off and turning on their best performance just when they need to the most. But now, Ben, you can see that there's a pretty even split of boats going left and right. I'm going to throw the impossible question to you. Who's going to come out on top?
Well, I like the boats that came off the pin end of the line here or stayed on starboard. I think if they've shown the control to get off and have a good start in these conditions, then the ones that emerge from the drag race on this side will be in great shape, I'm sure. One thing we're seeing here, Andy, that we haven't seen in the previous 2 days is the lumpy seas. So the wind has turned around and come from offshore as opposed to the previous 2 days, which were onshore and therefore flat water. And we're seeing these. You saw how fast when we were on board with Lutz and Boyka, how far back they were in their wing to keep the bow out of the waves. And while we were watching the tracking of the previous race, here's just a replay of that start. You can see how difficult it was to get going with the chop coming at them as they start to accelerate. That's Dobson and Tidy, GBR2, coming out of the middle of the line there. Very good start from them, and they had a good first race.
Yes, absolutely. Dobson and Tidy have always been strong in these conditions, and they will be absolutely relishing these conditions. And just on their shoulder off the start was Roble and Shea. So that, in fact, Lutz, Boyka, Dobson, Tidy, Roble, Shea, that is the top 3 in this fleet going into this race. And they all started very close together. You can see the communication there, constant chatter between Lutz and Boyka, who have sailed together for the best part of a decade, know each other so well. And they've been in the class a long, long time, Ben, but they seem to have stepped up to a new level.
Yeah, they sailed really well at both the previous two trial events and take a significant lead in the German trials into this final and third leg. It's not mathematically wrapped up yet, but with the way they're sailing, they are very close to securing their first Olympic representation. They also won the European Championship when we were in Kiel in 2017. So they have some fond memories, no doubt, others beyond just the European Championship as well here on Kiel waters. So they go for their first tack of the race. And I wonder if we'll see this boat here, Nielsen and Olsen from Denmark, also go for a tack. Nielsen and Olsen secured the Danish spot at the Olympics down when we were down under. So they're going to go off to their first Olympics after sailing really well in the first quad, but ultimately not getting selected. So we're starting to see the Olympic fleet here battling each other in these strong conditions. And Dobson and Tidy, they're looking really good, and very good tech from them as well. And they're punched through a few boat lengths in the lead, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely they are. I mean, the Danes are no slouches. Denmark 11 are pretty fast in these conditions, but look how much faster the British have sailed this first part of the Windward leg in this second race of Gold Fleet final. Top 26 boats competing together, looking to go through to the final 10 in the medal race tomorrow, which we'll be commentating on. But the Brits, they're tall. They've always been fast in these conditions, and the game for them has been to try and improve their speed in the lighter winds, which they've managed to do over the last year to 18 months. So they're quite an all-round team. But I would say that when they wake up, they pull back the curtains in Kiel and they see the white horses on the water, that's the kind of day that gets the British excited. So
absolutely,
the Americans in a tight battle there with Lutz and Boyka. So we're looking at two of the top three in this fleet at the moment, and it looks like Lutz and Boyka have the edge over the Americans there right now. But here are our charging Brits, who I suspect are looking in very good shape to go around the Windward mark in first place.
Yeah, they're looking really good here, and I think look how steady they seem, just adjusting to a puff there, but doing it well within their range, maybe going behind a bit of a keel boat. This is at the edge of the wind conditions where actually boat handling will play a big part. So typically the teams can manage the upwind without too much trouble, but we're going to see probably some action on the sets and possibly the jibes and douses as well. This is going to be testing all the team's skills here to secure their way around the course, just from a boat handling point of view too. I did see in the first race a couple boats miss their barroways and have to bail out and try a second time. So it's getting right up into the top of the range, and also with the waves, it doesn't make it any easier.
Yes, the waves are often more significant. You carry on, Ben.
I was just going to say we're now on board with the team here that Frank and Abert, who came second at the Worlds in 2018 from Austria, and they've come in from the right side of the course. So this is the first time we're seeing boats who port and came in from the other side of the fleet. These two, Tanya Frank, the helm, she's a bronze medalist from the Olympics in Rio, but in the NACRA, and just switched into the 49er this quad, so her first quad on the 49er FX. And just panning through the fleet here, it's a little bit, there. So that's the team we were just on board with, Austria 61. And here we see Dobson and Tiedemann over top of all the right-hand tackers, over top of everyone, and they'll just be looking for their lay line, no doubt, fairly soon, and be in the lead.
That's a very comfortable lead we see there right now. So the British showing the kind of form that we expect to see in these stronger winds, but even by their standards, quite a big lead. So at the moment, Charlotte Dobson and Saskia Tidy just about to tack on to the lay line, onto the starboard lay line. That's their final tack complete of this first leg of the second Gold Fleet race this morning. We're already one race in before we came on air. We are hoping to bring you this race plus 2 others after that. So plenty of action. And we're on board with Herzog and Lawrence, the German team that really need to step up if they're going to overtake their rivals for Olympic selection, Tina Lutz and Suzanne Boyka, who are in the top 3 in this regatta. These girls are in the top 10, but they are not quite managing to match the performance of the other Germans right now, Lutz and Boyka, who are looking set for Olympic selection for Germany. The bear away, Ingo Saskia Tidy at the front of the boat, getting that Jenica up. Really, really hard work. Big cardiovascular workout, getting that kite up. Purple Jenica is set, and look at the level of the lead for the British. Long way back to our surprise package from Italy. It's Germani and Bertuzzi. So these girls really setting the world alight. They have burst onto the scene. They've taken me and Ben by surprise with their performance so far this week, followed by the Swedish Grossen Klinger and then the Argentinians Travascio and Brantz, and a lot of just sets going on here. So clearly they think there is some major breeze to take advantage of. You don't often see so many jibe sets at the front of the fleet, and so many 29. They're just about hanging on to it. But Lutz and Boyka, that was a heart-stopping moment for them. They weren't far off tipping in, but they looked like they got the boat under control.
I'm very surprised to see so many jibe sets. Doesn't seem like it was completely necessary. But by the same token, I wonder if something came in right at the last minute from the right side of the course, and they're trying to take advantage of that. We can see the Italians, Germani and Bertuzzi, have sailed that very well, and look how low they're sailing on that new wind from the far side. So they're actually catching up on Dobson and Tidy, who had such a big lead. So obviously the right call has been to jibe set. Very tricky maneuver with the fleet in the first lap of the fleet, coming in all on starboard and having to face into them. But the teams who have pulled this off really have gained a lot of distance, and Dobson and Tidy are now within reach.
Absolutely. I mean, how much confidence does that show from Germani and Bertuzzi to be the first to make that big decision to do the jibe set? It's so rare to see that on the first windward leg because there's so much bad air and traffic from the boats on the starboard ley line. But absolutely the right call.
You can see they're actually moving faster than the British just from the naked eye here. So they're in slightly different winds. Maybe they train in Garda and everyone, so they're used to coming in from the hard right and having to jibe back to get there, and they're comfortable in the jibe set, but it seems to have worked wonders so far. Dobson and Tidy had such a big lead that they're still maintaining their lead, and no doubt they'll do fine as they get into the same wind as the teams that jibe set. But very interesting how hard that came in. Usually when it's this windy, both sides of the course have enough wind to sail cleanly.
Dobson and Tidy touching 20 knots downwind at times. You don't see 49 FXs go much quicker than this. Maybe if the water was even flatter, we would see even higher speeds. But they look so relaxed, and they look very comfortable and at home. So, okay, maybe a small tactical error not jibing as soon as they should have done and letting the rest of the fleet close the gap. But I feel like Dobson and Tidy have got so much raw boat speed and good boat handling, and you see that there already. They've stretched their legs again on Germani and Bertuzzi, but Germani and Bertuzzi with a lot of high quality teams breathing down their neck. The young Italians seem to have the measure of this 49er FX in very strong conditions. Now Dobson and Tidy, I wonder if what's going on there. No, I think we have some problems with where the marks were positioned.
No,
maybe
Andy,
not.
They haven't been able to jibe, and whatever puff was happening, they've now doused their spinnaker and have fallen into second place. Germani and Bertuzzi nailed their ley line and have got through the gate first. They haven't managed to round up though, so this must be right at the top of the breeze levels. I think Germani and Bertuzzi got around in a loose fashion. We see Dobson and Tidy now making it in a little bit late, and now a few other teams have managed to get into the gate properly as well, and it's all reset, and Dobson and Tidy are through in every spot.
Wow, what a giveaway by Dobson and Tidy. But as you say, Ben, maybe it's right on the edge of range for how they can sail these boats. It looked like they were so well under control. I can't understand how they misjudged the ley line that badly. Maybe they weren't able to jibe where they wanted to, but they look so relaxed and comfortable. Anyway, the commentators curse.
I don't think they even tried to jibe. I think it was so windy at the spot they needed to jibe that they decided it was too risky, and they just continued on, went for a douse, and then they ended up tacking around and doing a bearway on starboard to get through the gate. So I think you can see some upside down boats in the background. So they must have been going downwind and decided, you know what, a jibe here, it's just too risky. We're going to eat our lumps and keep our boat upright. And, got the pace clearly to get back in the fight here. And, they're almost in first still, actually, because you can see Germani and Bertuzzi struggled so much to head up. So it's actually Melzaka and Lobato, the Polish pair, who are, very quite quick in the breeze, but Dobson and Tidy are legging out below them. And if we look at the pace they had in the first beat, they'll be in the lead again very shortly. Just as we say that, Melzaka and Lobato must have fallen into a wave or something and got knocked over. So already Dobson and Tidy are back in front.
Dobson and Tidy have got an extra engine on the back of that boat. I mean, they are going just leagues faster than anybody else on this racetrack. You can never tell too much from looking at a camera angle like this, but you can tell that GBR2 is faster than other boats around them. What a shame for the Italians that they didn't manage to round up, because they could have been in this race. But as you said, Ben, they struggled to round up in that massive breeze. Even though that was a big setback for the British, they've got so much raw pace that I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them leading at the top mark again, even though we have them down in 5th right now on the leaderboard. The boat that we don't switch off at the moment is the American boat of Roble and Shea on the far side. So we have to see how the far side, the right-hand side of the track is going. But it looks like a knock there for Italians and Brits. I think we'll see attack from Italy and Britain fairly soon.
Okay, well, let's keep an eye out for that. Roble and Shea were the only team that straight set and then made it through the gate on port and continued on and stayed on port and went to the far side of the course. And from our picture, we can see Dobson and Tidy asking our camera boat to get out of the way. I think so. If there was, now they're going for the attack anyways. So camera boat's helping them with a header. Let's be charitable, I suppose, and say it wasn't a mistake from our camera drivers. But the Polish also attack underneath them, and have managed to keep Dobson and Tidy going to have to do a bearway there. Oh, that's they wouldn't have loved to do that. They did pull it off though. So that's probably Lutz and Boyka, was it, who are just crossed Dobson and Tidy, and they're looking over their shoulders as well, deciding when they're going to go for their tack. So they've just eased the jib there to get through on the tack, and they go through.
So fast on their feet across the boat, just incredible. I mean, they've been doing this a long time, so they should know what they're doing. But it's amazing to see that onboard footage and see how athletic these sailors are. And Dobson and Tidy, that wasn't ideal that they had to duck and bear away behind the Germans, because it put them pretty much behind the Polish. But already Dobson and Tidy are managing to climb up. But we're looking at Lutz and Boyka again, the boat that we just saw go through that tack. And they look very comfortable the way that they're sailing the boat. That main sail looks quite far out. I wonder if there's any sort of footing going on. I wonder if they've overstood the ley line. I don't know. No,
we can keep an eye on that. Yeah, I think they're just easing the sails to manage the power and go in obviously a fast forward mode as well. But you can see Dobson and Tidy pulling into the lead. We haven't have we seen Roble and Shea go by yet? Not yet. So Roble and Shea have undertacked the Polish. So we should start to see them in one of these pictures. See, there they are. So leading this pack, they're underneath Nielsen and Olsen, Denmark 11, and Melzaka from Poland. So Dobson and Tidy are just closer. Go on, Andy.
There's a couple of boats we haven't spoken about at all that you would expect to see in the frame in this kind of breeze, and that's the reigning world champions from Spain, and also the double world champions from the Netherlands. And nowhere to be at the race right now. So let's not forget some of the quality further back in this fleet, and that they're just not showing up for this race right now.
Yeah, I can see Echegoyen and Bartholo in 8th. We haven't seen them on the water yet, but they are upright and in the top 10. I don't see Beckering and Deutsch though, so I'm just trying to look offline. Yeah, they're down in 20th place in this race. So wherever they are, they're not having a good race yet, and I suspect we'll see a few more capsizes from people in the fleet on the second downwind. So there might be some room to capture a few boats, but 20th place is not a great place to be in Gold Fleet Racing here if they're going to try and have a good regatta. So not the best from Beckering and Deutz yet, but no doubt we'll see them later in the regatta. And we can see Echegoyen and Barthel now. They're still in 8th actually, so don't see them in the water. I wonder if there's a gap on the water and they're in the second group or something. There's Lutz and Boyka going for their attack on the ley line. Dobson and Tidy already on the ley line, so they're heading into the top mark now for the second time around. And Malzaka and Lobato are somewhere in the mix as well, still in second place, along with Roble and Shea up to third.
Yeah, I'm confused by what we're seeing here. So Lutz and Boyka, I thought were on ley line, but they can't be on ley line looking at some of the other boats further to windward of them. Surely not. Otherwise,
no, you're
some
right.
other boats.
It doesn't look, unless they've changed the ley line, unless they mark or something, some of the boats don't know about it. But it does look like Lutz and Boyka are too low, along with Dobson and Tidy. So a couple more tacks yet to go in this beat. Roble and Shea are on the ley line, though, so they're sailing the simple square. Oh, no, they did do one tack in the middle. But Roble and Shea are going to have one less set of maneuvers to do than everyone else. And if they're on ley line, we might see them take the lead into this windward mark.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder why Dobson and Tidy tacked where they did. Maybe the shift was too big to ignore, but they didn't have long to go to just one tack that ley line. Instead, they've gone for two. I wonder if they're just playing with the fleet and just having a bit of fun. But now Roble and Shea look like they're caving. It looks like the breeze is going left, and Dobson and Tidy are well positioned to take advantage of that left-hand shift. So as long as they pull off two decent tacks, Dobson and Tidy will still come around this windward mark ahead. But also the Polish Melzerka and Loboda also looking still very good. That's Poland 888 that we see there. With GBR2 coming across, have they got enough gap on the poles to be able to tack safely in front? It looks like the breeze, the Poles have had to tack anyway because they need to do two more tacks. So it looks like as the British go into their tack, that will be their final tack of this race, provided they don't do another tack around on one of the jibe points downwind. Now, this time, these two boats were the straight setters last time, and it's a straight set again for the leaders. But what are the Americans going to do? They're going to drive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so they clearly like where they came from. They spent more time to the right side of the upwind than anyone else. Let's see what the local Boyka dancing there as she comes into the boat to make sure it's balanced. And I think we've got two straight sets and two jibe sets from the leaders to start with. Look how quickly Susan Boyka's back on the wire there to get up to full speed. And we see Melzaka and Lobato go for their jibe quite early. So there must be some action from the other side of the race course. Who are we on board with here? This is Beckering and Deutz, I think. Oh, no, Frank and Abecht. Okay, no. So they're a little bit farther back.
Yeah, so that's Frank and Abecht from Austria. But we have an absolute Stevens between Dobson and Tidy and Roble and Shea. But look at the boat speed difference. Dobson Tidy touching 18 knots. Roble and Shea not quite in the same breeze, only touching 16, 17 knots. So at the moment, Dobson and Tidy holding on until their jibe. Looks like that was the better bet. The early jibe set doesn't seem to have worked out so well as it did on the previous round. Now we're hoisting with Bjertzok and Lawrence, the second string German team. Straight set for them. And Annika Lawrence back into the back of the boat, foot loops, and already going into an early jibe maybe.
I think she's got an issue with something to do with the spinnaker. She was trying to pull her windward spinnaker sheet has got caught in something, so she handed the spin sheet off to the skipper there for a bit and went and did a bit of a fix-up. So good communication and teamwork there, fixing whatever problem they were having. Often you do find things get wrapped on a wavy upwind as the teams head upwind and the rope get flung around by the waves. So something must have got looped, but they quickly emerge. And looking at the leaderboard, at the lead for this regatta, Dobson and Tidy, great spot there they're in. And, only a 60-meter lead, I suppose, but they seem to be in a good spot, although Roble and Shea are setting top speeds on the course right now.
Yes, and there's no way that Dobson and Tidy can afford to do a tack round on the jibe point this time round. They're going to have to go into that jibe if they are wanting to hang on to their race win, which with their boat speed they should absolutely be able to do. But as they get further down this course and they get further away from the shore, the waves get bigger, and the moments that you need to pick for your jibe, which is a tricky maneuver, it gets harder and harder the further you go offshore.
Yeah, so Roble and Shea have successfully done their jibe. I wonder if they're on ley line. They probably are. They would have certainly tried to get the ley line right here, and 70 meters back. So it puts a bit of pressure on Dobson and Tidy to get their jibe in properly. And, they'll have to be coming up to that point now. So let's see if they can pull it off and maintain their lead. They've certainly earned it from their boat speed, but they do. They're the only team that hasn't done a jibe in this race. A jibe from port to starboard.
That's true. That's true. So, a little bit nervous, I think. That wasn't their best. But they're through. So that was a bit of a survival jibe. So,
ultimately, nothing that would have tilted them over there. So I think they've survived it, and they get comfortable, get up to speed. You can see they've quite a lumpy spot they ended up having. And they've slowed down a little bit as they might be overstood again here. Look at this, Eddie. They're having to flog their kite get up over the finish boat, but they've managed to do it and just get through for the win. So it's that one, but didn't make it easy on themselves. Roble and Shea pushing them right to the finish line as they come through in second place. I think they won first race of the day on the water, so great day for them so far today. And then we see Nielsen and Olsen coming through in third, followed by Malzaka and Lobato in fourth from Poland. And Lutz Boyka, the team that suffered the most from the front pack, actually, so they fell back a little bit this race, but still a fifth, a very good race on conditions like this. Little high five there from Susan Boyka, congratulating her helm, Tina Lutz, on a race well sailed.
And they're the Spanish world champions. So not such a bad race, but the Belgians going to make it through. There is no worse place to tip the boat in, just meters before the finish line. That is heartbreaking for the Belgian team, Meinhardt and Gertz, who don't quite get across, and they're going to see so many boats sail past them before they finally manage to finish. I
think they're going to get the tip of the mast through the even upside down and be able to score before they get back up. They're probably just about through now. So they're not the first 49er team to go through the finish line upside down, and they won't be the last. But disappointing way to finish the race. They had a lot of pressure on as they had to jibe to port just with a few meters to go and a bunch of traffic. So not the best spot to go. But I'm sure and they will get their finish. At least they weren't on the wrong side of the pin boat there, which often can happen as well. As we see the rest of the fleet come through, was that Yersak and Lorenz in 13th? Just a bit tough to figure out where we are there. So.
Yes,
so Nathan Rodingham from Norway through in 15th place. They would have been hoping for more, I'm sure. We see three Italian teams in the top 15 there, which we haven't seen the Italian teams feature very highly in this quad yet, with the retirement of Giulia Conti and Francesca Klapčić after the last quad. So maybe the Italian talent is really coming through, led by Bertuzzi and Germani so far this regatta. But three boats in the top 15 and a good fleet. That's quite something.
Yes, seems like they are really coming on strong at the moment, the Italians. And we were going to have a European Championship in Lake Garda earlier this year before COVID got in the way, Ben. And now we have a replacement European Championship not too far away in Lake Attersee in Austria. But it would have been great to have seen the Italians racing on home waters at Lake Garda.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get back to Italy sometime soon to replace that regatta. But yeah, we'll be at Lake Attersee in Austria in 2 weeks. So this whole fleet's going to pack up in Kiel and head down the road to Austria for another regatta in a couple of weeks. But they've got a couple more races here today to get through first, and we can see the Finnish team limping through the line.
We're hoping that we might get an interview with Dobson and Tidy, the race winners. So let's let's look at maneuvers. Roble and Shea, who were second in that race, an incredibly small number of maneuvers by the Americans. And the most
I think
by
they
the
started
Polish.
on port. I think they started on port and did very few tacks on the upwinds, very few jibes. They only did one jibe on the first downwind, so really minimizing their maneuvers, and they almost won the race with that tactic.
Highest boat speed for the Americans, that surprises me. I thought that Dobson and Tidy, the race winners, would be the runaway fastest boat on the race course. But Dobson and Tidy did do the biggest distance of the top five, 8.6 kilometres. And they did a sort of a medium-sized number of manoeuvres. But boat speed through the water upwind, they seem to be just a click faster than anybody else.
Yeah, don't forget this is using averages. So this is accounting for Dobson and Tidy sailing off the course in that downwind, having to douse the kite, tack, and turn around and come back. So that will have hurt their averages. But there's no doubt upwind they were the fastest boat in a straight line.
Well, after race, and they put a windward wing on the coach boat, and they take on some fluids and they rehydrate. And let's have a look at the overalls now. So that race win has lifted them by a point into the lead ahead of the Americans, who were second in that race. So first and second in that race are now first and second overall. And Lutz Boyka not too far behind, that fifth place, holding on to third for them. And Echegoyen from Spain, the reigning world champions, still within striking distance. A sixth place in that race, not too bad in the end, but we didn't really see them fighting for front spots. The ones that were a surprise there are the double world champions from the Netherlands, Beckering and Does, who were 20th in that race. I mean, it should be money for old rope sailing in those conditions for a team of that quality, Ben. I'm surprised that we didn't see better from the Dutch there, but maybe there was a very good reason for it.
Yeah, they couldn't pass any boats. We spotted them in 20th, halfway up the second beat, and that's where they finished. So for whatever reason, they weren't able to sail at their best level in that race, but still with the drop race in contention here, only 18 points behind the leaders with a few races to go. So that's them center of screen right now in Netherlands 8, and can't see anything particularly wrong with what's going on right here. So maybe just a bad race. It happens when the competition is good.
So Netherlands 8, that means that they were 8th at the last World Championship in Geelong. Is that correct, Ben?
Yeah, that's right. So the top 10 updates their sail number every year. And so you can always tell how they did at the most recent World Championship. And the Dutch there were 8th in Geelong, which, was they were world champions in 18. So a step back from there, but still, I think that's 3 top 10s in a row from the Dutch. And they've been winning, their fair share of regattas all through the teams to watch Tokyo. I'm not sure exactly what they've been doing in their time off, but I think in Netherlands they were able to sail quite a bit. So no doubt they've been working hard.
Yeah. So what do you take away from that race, seeing what you did then? I mean, the obvious statement is the Brits were fast upwind, but the Americans, maybe they were the quickest downwind. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're going to see boat handling remain a feature of this regatta if it stays, or if this racing, if it stays this windy and wavy. We saw how much that affected Dobson Tidy on that first downwind, and we saw how much pressure they were under in their last jibe as well. So at the bottom of the course where the waves are up, I think we're going to see that part remain a story of the day. And then, it's still quite puffy and shifty at the top of the course. So we saw teams, trying jibe sets in condition or in spots, especially on the first beat where we don't normally see people try jibe setting. So it's obviously very valuable to get the shifts right at the top, and they'll come in from both sides. So we should see a lot of upset from that. But otherwise, you've got to say that Dobson and Tidy, with their boat speed advantage upwind, should be looking for consistent sailing, and another good couple races will put them in a good position. We didn't see a lot of Roble and Shea because they were on the right side of the course and our cameras are on the left side of the course, but they're obviously sailing well as well, having won the first race and come second in the second race. And maybe they're quicker downwind. We didn't get a chance to see that just yet. Yeah, they're right on it, and we saw how well they sailed at the medal race. That was the last image from Geelong, was them storming through to narrowly beat out Anna Tunnicliffe for the American spot, and that was also a very windy race with quite chaotic conditions. So they clearly put their time in the breeze, Stephanie Roble and Maggie Shea, and feel comfortable in it, and maybe we'll see them continue to do well the next couple of races.
Yeah, they've really stepped up in the last year, the Americans. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We will be back to you shortly for the next race. That's coming up in about 10 minutes' time. So we will be back on air with you in about 5 minutes, and we will pick up the third race of Gold Fleet Finals in 49er FX. See you then. 2 minutes to the start of the third race of Gold Fleet finals for the 49er FX women's skiff. My name's Andy Rice, and I'm commentating with Ben Ramoka out in Vancouver. Ben, thanks for joining us in the middle of the night, and hopefully the action from the race that we saw just now has woken you up a little bit. Let's see if we get more action to keep you and the rest of the audience entertained. The breeze is still blowing from about 16 to 17 knots. It's the kind of wind speed and wave set, that choppy water, that can really create problems for the 49er skiff, and that's partly what makes the excitement in this class, isn't it?
It sure is, and we did get a bunch of excitement in the last race, especially on those downwinds. The fleet's setting up here for another start, and they've got this race and one more to finish the day, so quite a lot of work left to do for these women. And let's see where the leaders are planning their starts. We've got Dobson and Tidy just drifting down from the boat, looking for 1/3 of the way down from the boat to start. Pretty conservative stuff. So actually, we see it looking very patchy. Doesn't look nearly as windy now as it did for a lot of that race. But let's see what happens once that puff that's on the left of our screen hits the fleet. We've got just 30 seconds to the start. And what do you see, Andy? Anything? You see the Americans?
I can't see the Americans right now. No, they're really enjoying the other end of the. Yeah, okay, so they're sort of 2/3 of the way down along the fleet, but the whole fleet loves the right-hand end of this line. I'm not sure we're going to see many takers for a port tack start underneath the fleet. 10 seconds to go. The teams are still well back off the line. No one's pushing the line too hard, but they will accelerate very shortly, and they're off. And there was money for old rope there if you had transit. We know transits aren't easy, but people could have accelerated if they wanted to. They would have accelerated, because America is struggling off the middle of the line. They are fighting for clear air. We're on board with Herzog and Lawrence, the German team, and they seem to have had a good start out of their section of the line. And Ned 64, the Dutch team off this end of the line, plenty of clear air, with the French Julie Bossard and Aude Campan in France 13 also in clear air.
Yeah, very good start there from Herzog and Lorenz. They looked very comfortable in their lane, which I think was right near the boat. So very good start from them. And who do we see here? Beckery and Deutz have had a good start. That's the Polish, Malzaka and Lobato, who had a good race in the last race. They're holding a lane. I wonder if the British have had to tack off here. I don't see them. There they are. So where are they on the race course?
As you say that. But it does look a little bit lighter. But I wonder, on the top of our screen, if you look further up, it looks like there's more breeze on the right-hand side. You can see that dark patch of water where that German team is tacking away towards. That's Lutz and Boyka tacking away to what I think looks like better breeze on the right-hand side of the race course. So I think Ned 64 and the boats on this side of the course are missing out on the best breeze. It doesn't look quite as windy, but the direction might be okay. Now, Dobson and Tidy, look how far back they are, and Echegoyen and Barcelo. So a couple of serious teams there are way back off the rest of the fleet. So they had to turn back.
They've gone back and dipped the line, and now their tracker's showing them going back. Oh, no, it's not. That was just an error. So the British have went back. They must have thought they were over the line early. Usually they start on a U flag, so it kind of doesn't make sense to go back. We can't make it out from the pictures, I don't think, what happened. But it didn't look like anyone was punched through, did it, Andy? You can see that there's the boat heading back now. That is Dobson and Tidy who went back. So
I'm really surprised by that. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably reading far too much into this. Could they be doing it as a training exercise to see if they can pull through the fleet? I mean, maybe they genuinely thought they were over the line, and maybe they were. But from our perspective, it looked like a clean start.
Yeah, another team that went back was the Spanish Echegoyen and Barcelo. So two top teams here. Well, at least they get starting in clear wind. You can see how far back they are just in the back screen there.
Yeah, always look on the bright side of life. Yeah, so plenty of clear air back there. That is very true.
At the front of the fleet, we've seen Netherlands 8, Beckering and Deutsch. They were I think, with the boat, and they got the best of that breeze that we could see, even though they were on starboard, and have now tacked to get right. And we also see Roble and Shea, the Americans, who went right early and actually didn't have a great start. But it seems like that right side of the course has been quite favored, and they've pulled into the front part of the group as well.
Well, Roble and Shea, they really have liked the right-hand side of this course so far. Will Netherlands 64 out on the far left that we're looking at now, what will they be able to make of their position? It doesn't seem like there's much to come back on from the left-hand side of the course at the moment.
Yeah, it's Offerman and Reuter from the Netherlands, one of the training partners to the Olympic Beckering and Deutsch. And we saw them sail well last year, if you remember, Andy. They had a couple of good races, and they're just going for their tack now. But it doesn't look very windy here, so if they're in a lower wind speed than the rest of the fleet, it can't end that well. And you can see they're already taking a lot of stern. So I wouldn't have said that's the best position to be in. Jersak and Lorenz, the gain line, the virtual gain line, is quite a bit ahead of these teams, as we see Jersak and Lorenz head in for the tack. No doubt their boat handling's always been excellent, so no doubt they'll have got through that well. But let's see who's going to come in from the other side of the course.
Well, the only consistent name, two consistent names from the previous race, actually, Lutz and Boyka and Roble and Shea. So the Germans and the Americans performing well in the race that we followed just now. We're on board with Lutz and Boyka right now. Boyka looking upwind, seeing what the breeze is doing, coming down, looking around at the rest of the fleet, looking at their positioning. Is that standard for the crew to be looking around that much? I thought on the sort of the typical split of responsibilities was for the helm to do more of the looking around and be the tactician. What do you reckon, Bad?
I think that is the more standard split, but clearly on their boat, Susan is looking around a lot, and maybe she's passing on some. There are some boats on their windward hip, which is a very difficult spot when it's windy for the skipper to see because of just how you have to rotate your body. So it's a slightly bit easier for the crew, who has the little more pressure on their feet because they're pulling the main sheet towards them, to be able to leave around and look. So maybe Susan's feeding in information about height or depth. Because they're stuck in between a couple really talented teams there with the Dutch and the Americans. So, getting the right angle is critical. So I don't know if they do it all the time or just in windy conditions, but clearly it's working for them. As you said, they've been one of the two consistent teams that we've seen so far today.
But the team that we haven't talked much about so far are the leaders, the Italians, Alexandra Stalda and Silvia Sperry. So maybe more evidence that something good is happening in Italian FX sailing right now. Three very strong teams that we haven't heard much about, and the Italians haven't been that strong since Giulia Conti retired from the class. But it looks like the Italians are coming on strong, and it's a different set of Italians that we find ourselves talking about this time. Stalder and Sperry leading this race ahead of the more experienced Lutz and Boyka from Germany, bidding for German selection, and Beckering and Deutsch.
That was a great angle there. You could see that the leaders, Lutz and Boyka, along with Beckering and Deutsch, had just fallen out of the best wind, and Stadler and Sperry were in the best pressure. So Susan Lutz and Tina Lutz and Susan Boyka have just tacked out to try more wind. You can see how windy it is here for the leading Italians as they are ripping in from the right side of the course in a huge puff. Jib well cracked off, mainsail eased as they're overstood now. The wind has come in so far from the right, possibly even too much. They'd be going faster if it was a little less windy. But they are screaming in over top of the fleet and managed to keep it in control. There's Beckering and Deutsch bottom of screen, Roble and Shea middle of screen, and the windward mark should be coming up soon. So let's see if Stadler and Sperry can get over top of these other teams here to take the lead at the windward mark. Looks like Nason Roningham on their hip, also trying to get across. This is when the wind comes in like this, you want to take advantage by footing off, but also it's quite difficult to foot off and go faster when it's right at the top end of the wind speed. So all the teams converging here at once on multiple different close-hauled angles.
This is going to be so busy. Now, is anyone going to go for the jibe set this time? I think we just say yes, jibe sets for the top three, for the top four, and maybe for the top five. So is everyone going for the jibe set. That's Lutz Boyka, and that's who we see. It's a bit of a slow hoist for them, but at least they're upright. There's not a lot of breeze right now, and a bit of an hourglass that shakes out quite quickly for the Germans. But with that massive right-hand shift, I guess the jibe set was the obvious move this time. Not very orthodox, but the breeze is shifting like crazy at the top of this course, and you have to be ready for that jibe set as a serious tactical option. And Stalder and Sperry lead.
Yeah, Stalder and Sperry did a normal jibe set, a typical jibe set, which is where you bear off, you hoist, and then you pull the boat through the jibe once the spinnaker is hitting the top of the mast. Roble and Shea did a tight jibe set because they were under a little more pressure from the boats behind, which is where you jibe the upwind sails, the main and the jib first, and then pull up the spinnaker and have to bear off and kind of get it around the bow of the boat. It's a much more difficult and slow maneuver, and you can see Stadler and Sperry have really extended their lead a lot because they were able to do the more standard jibe set and do it more cleanly. You get up to speed quicker, and there's less risk of complications. So good move there from the Italian, knowing what type of jibe set they could pull off. Roble and Shea got the right shift as well, and then we can see Germani and Bertuzzi, the other Italian team, the only team middle of course, who are also doing well. So another good race for them.
Yes, and I wonder if Germani and Bertuzzi, who we can't see in this picture right now, I wonder if they've made a gain by carrying on a little bit further compared with those that did the jibe set. But meanwhile, Stalder and Sperry from Italy holding their own, but it looks like it might be an Italian 1-2 at the front of this race night right now, with Germani and Bertuzzi charging forwards in the fleet after taking a different line out of the windward mark. So maybe that jibe set wasn't such a smart move after all.
Yeah, we see Stadler and Sperry here in the lead, and then Roble Shea in the black spinnaker behind them, and then we're focusing in on the battle for third and fourth place with the Dutch the windward, fighting over each other, just about to roll Naas and Runningen. So that's never a fun spot to be if you're the Norwegians, but they are getting closer to the jibe spot. So if they can hold their lane, maybe the Dutch won't get truly past them. This is the leaders again. So go on.
I think the Americans are just a little bit faster. They're about half a knot faster downwind than the leading Italians, and I think the Americans are closing in on this lead right now. They just got an extra level of speed, and I think the Americans were even maybe quicker than the British in the previous race. They just seem to be sailing this boat a little bit harder with a bit more confidence.
Both boats getting ready for their jibes. So let's see if the Americans can get a better jibe than the Germans or the Italians. No, oh, look how close they are to the gate. So the Italians got through that jibe actually very well. Good top boat handling from them. Having a little bit of trouble in their douse now, though. So they actually have sailed well around, and they do rescue it. But Roble and Shea, much like they did in the 2020 Worlds, have got inside at a leeward gate and now take the lead of this race. A very similar maneuver to how they did so well in the medal race in Geelong just a few months ago. And they've got through and heading into the lead. So another good race. And then Lutz and Boyka get down the spinnaker. They're heading on starboard around the close mark to us. Naas and Runningen managed to get round as well. But a bit of a shame there from the Italians, because the Italians, under a lot of pressure, pulled off their jibe beautifully, but they couldn't get the spinnaker down.
Yeah, it looked to me like the crew was tiring a little bit. That juice, it's quite hard. Oh, and this is the other Italians, the third placed overall Italians of Germani and Bertuzzi. So the lack of experience showing at the leeward gate for the young Italian teams. Still got to do a better away, do they? That still look like they're not out of the woods yet, so really expensive. And we saw Germani and Bertuzzi suffer at the leeward gate, so they know where they need to be doing their homework when they go back to their training camp. It's at these leeward gate roundings. Yeah,
I mean, Germani's in a tough spot there. So when they're trapping downwind, the trapeze line is so let out because the skipper's at the back of the boat that once you're in a more standard forward position, it ends up too long and you end up dragging yourself in the water. So it's quite a lot of work to get physically in a position where you can control the boat again. But I think they did get around the leeward gates upright, which is a small victory, I suppose, but much better than the alternative. We can see Roble and Shea being chased by Beckering and Deutz out of the far right side of the course. That seems to have been where all the action is in this regatta, and Lutz and Boyka long ways of width separation. But maybe it's windy enough that it doesn't matter quite as much as it might seem, and they'll be fine. But in a standard set of racing, you'd say that was an awful lot of leverage. Here we're on board with Jursak and Lorenz, who are on starboard. I'll see if I can find them on the race course.
So they're looking around, deciding when they're going to make their tack. But it does seem like the right-hand side is the safer place to be in this race. Left wasn't such a bad option in the previous race, but in this one, it does seem like heading in towards the shore is the better bet. And there's some more leeward mark roundings going on there for the Polish, and now there seems like a few boats have overstood and are coming into the leeward gate without their Gennicas. So either some misjudgments or some big wind shifts have caught people out.
Well, if you remember, we saw those boats. If we saw those boats jibe set, and then they still had hardly any starboard to do on the downwind. So anyone that had straight set at the top of the course might have found themselves with very, overstood very early. So I think that's what we're seeing there is a procession of teams that had to take down their Gennikers and sail just with two sails into the leeward gates.
Meanwhile, the Norwegians, Nace and Ronigan, have they found something on the left-hand side that has caught the people on the right short? Are they actually going to be overtaking the Americans for the lead in this race? Suddenly things look very good on the left-hand side, which hasn't been the case for quite a while. So Nace and Ronigan, bit of an average regatta for them. They seem to be turning it on here. But now we see the cross between America and Norway. Who's going to have it between the two sides? It looks like America still in the lead of this race, but Norway certainly closed the gap, and maybe Norway will find themselves ahead of the Dutch Ned 8 on the right-hand side of our picture. Also a 29er from another fleet that we see there, the junior version of the 49er and the 49er FX.
Look in the foreground of this picture. You can see the wind on the left, how strong it is compared to what we see on the right. So Nace and Ronnie are taking a big advantage here, having been more to the center of the course. Roble and Shea are almost on ley line, and Nace and Ronnie look to me like they're going to get across narrowly and probably be able to attack pretty close to on top of. I think we might have a new windward mark, so I think they've reset the course to be more truly windward and leeward. So maybe Nason Runningham are going to keep going. No, they do tack straight on top of the Americans and stick in the wind that has got them into the lead. And we see a lead change there, another lead change for this race.
Well, certainly very close between Norway and America. It looks like they are pretty much neck and neck up the front of the fleet. This is Lutz and Boyka in third place, the German boat on the right of our picture. So Lutz and Boyka continuing to sail extremely consistently in this regatta. Not wing races, but always in the top few. So very impressively consistent sailing by the local team.
Yeah, very much so. And like you said, we think this is the third leg of their German trials, so they'll be thrilled to extend their lead in the trials and wrap up. This could be them securing the Olympic trip right here, actually, if they haven't had a drop race, really. A secure finish here might be enough to guarantee them a trip to the Olympics, which is obviously what they've been chasing for quite a long time together as a team.
Now, I think I might be right in saying Tina Lutz won the Optimist World Championships a long, long time ago, which some say is one of the hardest things you can do in sailing, even though it's a junior event. But to Optimist, back when she did, I don't know how old she is now, but probably late 20s. She must have won that when she was 14 or 15. Seriously good sailor, Tina Lutz, and finally coming on strong in the 49er FX.
Yeah, a wonderful team, and they've been. I think they did a 470 campaign for 2012, and then 49er FX for 2016, where they got beat out by their countrywomen Jursak and Lorenz, and stuck with it. They won the European Championship in 2017, and now have had quite a good season here in 2020.
So Norway were threatening America for a while, and we haven't seen where that ley line is yet. If they're on ley line, then Norway will be doing fine. If they've got more tacking to do, then it's advantage USA. But it's very, very close between the top two. We're back with Yurtsok and Lorenz back in about 10th place, fully stretched. And this team have been sailing together for a long time as well. But it doesn't look like they're going to get to Tokyo 2021, unless something dramatic changes between these top two German teams that are chasing selection.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. They have been, they came fifth in Rio, so very, very top team. Hasn't been the greatest quad for them though. They haven't featured nearly at the front of the fleet nearly as much this quad as the last quad. But just as you say that, you can see Nason running in the lead of the race here. Nason's had to tack underneath and is not going to be in the lead. We don't think, I'm still 100%. I think, according to the tracking, they have moved windward mark. So I think they're heading to a windward mark. We don't quite see where it is. And that ley line that you were seeing on the virtual was wrong there. So I think the windward mark is farther to the right, and Lutz and Boyka are now, I think, the farthest team on the right. They are, and it does look like the wind has come in again. So it could be that Lutz and Boyka are moving forward in this race. They were a few boat lengths behind the two leading teams, but I think they'll have closed up the distance, and they should be on ley line now. So we should see the other boats pop into picture here. There's Nason running. They'll be heading for their tack shortly, and then we'll see the Americans come into picture just after that.
Beautiful tack there by Norway. Absolutely spot on sailing in difficult conditions. Now, can the Americans match with an equally good tack under pressure? Yes, it is a good tack by the Americans as well.
But the momentum from the Norwegians here might take them over top. Bit of a tough spot to be on the outside, actually. I think these teams are going to want a jibe set, so you might not want to be the outside boat there as they head around the marks. Let's see if they do jibe set, or if it's quite breezy for a jibe set, so let's see what happens. Both teams opting for the straight set. I wonder if we'll see Lutz and Boyka go for a jibe set behind them. Two good hoists there, and the teams get their Jennekers under control. You can see Tina Lutz and they're not able to bear away right now. There they go. They've got it. So in they go. Let's see. Looks like a straight set from them as well. So teams opting for straight sets. It's quite windy, and off they go. Good set actually in the end for a bit of a dodgy bear away. And that's Becker and Deutsch in place, followed by Olsen in fifth place.
And a really good bear away by Beckering and Deutsch, and I wonder if that will enable them to put pressure on the Germans. But it looks like Lutz and Boyka are up to speed and pulling away nicely now. But it's a match race at the front between America and Norway. And Norway have already done their first jibe. America's still carrying on. America tends to be very, very quick downwind. They're also very good on the boat handling. Bit of an average jibe as I say that, and Norway already up to speed on the new jibe. And so Norway, do they have an opportunity to attack round the outside? America looks vulnerable to Norway right now.
Yeah, it does look like Norway's already passed them through the wind shadow. I'd say they jibed first and got that puff first. Doesn't mean they won't sail out of it. It doesn't look like the puff's going to hold them there. So the two boats are probably going to sail just about on the gain line with each other for a bit here. That's, I think, our new leaders, Nason running. Look how low they're trapping. So they're obviously comfortable in their position as they are right now and skimming over these waves.
So this race continues.
They're going to look to go down over top of Shea and Roble there because they're in a wind forward. The Americans are getting wind from the Norwegians, so the Norwegians don't actually have to go full speed. They just have to get down over top of the line of the Americans to kind of secure the lead. It's so close on the water. They will be jibing onto starboard, so they've got a bit of that advantage, but very close here.
But look, it's always fast downwind, just closing that distance gap, and it's neck and neck between these two. I think the Americans are going to be too strong, but we'll see. I think America continues to show that slightly superior downwind pace, and they must be coming up to jibe point fairly soon, unless that breeze has shifted so much that they can more or less get through the finish line in one go. And further back on the left-hand side, you see the Germans in third. So the Germans are a long way back. This is a two-horse race for the win in the third race of Gold Fleet finals for the.
I think both teams. I think both teams are going to have to put in a short jibe to get through the finish line. And as these puffs come in and out, they're trading places for the lead. But we got one more jibe to the finish. We put a couple puffs. I don't think they're going to be able to soak down. So Nason running him here. I wonder if we can get on the live action if they're going to get over top here. It looks like they have. But still, the Americans could jibe inside when it does come time to jibe, and that maneuver will probably decide the victory there. They both do simultaneous jibes. Let's see how they come the other side. Both pretty good jibes.
Excellent jibes, and I think that might be enough for Norway. If Norway's got its ley line correct, then Norway is still in the lead. So it looks like Norway is just about going to clinch this. Oh, absolute photo finish. I don't know how to...
I think the Norwegians made a big mistake there. They let off the gas and tried to soak down, and I think the Americans got it at the last second finish line. Lutz and Boyka through for third place. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that should wrap up their Olympic selection. So congratulations to them. We saw a big high five from Susan and Tina. Then, here we go. Replay of the photo finish. Let's take a look, Andy. What do you think?
Oh, as you say, a total giveaway. I mean, they just slow down too much. And in gymnastics, you also get marked on your landing. And if you're going to get marks on your landing, then a capsize straight after the finish loses points as well. But in terms of
the Russian judge might say otherwise.
I'll bet rather you than me casting those aspersions on the Russian judge. But anyway, I think you're right, Ben, that they tried to dive for the line, sort of did the athletes dip for the line as they crossed, but it was the wrong move. They should have just kept their pedal to the metal and just kept pushing as hard and as fast as they could. That's what the Americans did, and that's why the Americans have clinched that race by a whisker.
Yeah, we see the other teams coming through here fully lit up. That was one of the Italian teams, 202, Germania Bertuzzi in 7th place, having another good race for them. So another team to add to the mix here in terms of teams that can sail the FX at a high level. So I'm very interested to see Germania Bertuzzi progress through the fleet in future years. Here's the Argentinians who are also headed to the games, Travasco and Brantz. We haven't seen them racing a lot today, but I think their first race that we covered also a pretty decent race for them. So I think they're sailing okay, just not quite at the front.
Bossart and Compin from France crossing, and now we see Great Britain coming across with the purple Jenica in 11th place after turning back to restart. So considering how much extra distance they sailed, 11th is not too bad, really. But they should be winning these races, not finishing 11th. And then Meinhout and Gertz from Belgium in 12th place across the line. And then one of the other German teams, I think that was Herzog and Lawrence in 13th, are just not good enough compared with Lutz and Boyka, unfortunately for them. So there are the stats from this race. So greatest distance sailed and fastest boat through the water was Lutz and Boyka, who were third in that race. Shortest distance, probably because of that smart move up the second beat on the left-hand side. They were the inside of the wheel. Nason Running from Norway, that's what brought them into contention. And they so should have won that race if they'd kept their foot on the gas. But it was Robel and Shea, 12.3 knots average. And it's the Americans who won that race by the smallest of margins. And I think that might be enough to move them into the overall lead. So Robel and Shea absolutely justifying that tight selection for the US spot earlier this year when they beat out Paris Henken and Anna Tobias for the spot for the USA.
Yeah, Robel and Shea have got impressive speed both upwind and down. We saw them pull through on the start line. And Nason Runningham weren't able to match them either upwind or downwind. I mean, they did do well downwind, except for that error in the end, but very impressive speed from the Americans, and that's obviously something you carry with you everywhere you go. Not quite sure why the Norwegians aren't up to speed. Normally they're one of the quickest boats in the fleet as well, but they did get the wind shifts and the tactics just that bit right to put themselves in contention and almost take the victory. I wonder who we're on board with here. We've got a few
that's Lutz and Boyka. Okay. And I wonder if this is the interview to ask them whether they have won selection for the Olympics. I don't know what you know, Ben. You seem to know a lot about their Olympic selection. You think that race result then was sufficient to give them selection for Tokyo 2021, do you?
Well, I think that they had almost an insurmountable lead and would have had to sort of screw up this regatta to let Gersok and Lorenz into the picture at all. And clearly they're not screwing up this regatta. And now that they've sailed all the races and will make the top 10 medal race no matter what happens in this last race of the series, I think mathematically, it's got to be a sure deal. I don't know the exact math, but I think they've just secured themselves a guaranteed great regatta. So speaking of Giulia Conti earlier, the Italian retiree.
Ja, ich höre dich nicht, Junge.
Okay, so I think we're gonna try and get the audio here from the Americans.
This is really, really fun conditions. We're really happy to be here and just be racing again. It's been almost 7 months since we last raced, so we're just excited to have the experience to be out here racing.
How was it to get in here and then seeing the Norwegians right next to you and they capsized? Like, what do you think of that moment? I thought you were going to crash into them.
No, I felt a little bad. They sailed such a good race, and we didn't know if we had it or if they had it at the finish line, and so we've all been there. We've all capsized right after the finish. You kind of feel a little bad for them, but they feel great.
It looked like you won, so we're pretty sure that you won this race. What's the goal for the Kiel week? Like, when you got here, what was your goal?
Just to shake the rust off, really. Like, we're just trying to take it one race at a time, and yeah, like I said, it's been a while since we've been racing, so we're just trying to shake the rust off and yeah, take it one race at a time.
Couldn't you do anything in the States? Like, couldn't you practice? Couldn't you do anything? Or
we could sail in Miami alone, so we did a lot of boat handling, but we never get conditions like this. Kiel is such a special place that we were really excited to come here for the shifty offshore, super windy, cold, just epic racing. And because it's flat water, the race committee can race us until it's really nuclear, and we love it. So we expected this condition, and we love it. And Steph was going fast, and she speeds us up. I slow us down. We have a good time today. It's good.
We're having a very good time too. It's awesome to see you race, to see how good you perform, and good luck for the race, and good luck in Tokyo if it happens.
It will happen.
It will. It has. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
A statement of confidence there from.
Yeah.
Well, a very brief play, but statement of confidence there from Steph Roble that Tokyo 2021 will happen. Of course, there are still question marks about that. Thanks to Tim Cruiser for the interview there. And so the Americans have had to focus on boat handling in Miami. They've only been sailing by themselves, and certainly they've been making good use of that time by the look of it, Ben, because their boat handling looks exceptionally good, doesn't it?
Yeah, we got to see just the replay of that bearaway where they had the Norwegians right on stern, and they had to pull off the windy bearaway and get the kite up, and they did that and all the other maneuvers very well in that race, including taking the victory in the last minute. What struck me looking at that interview was how many clothes Steph Roble was wearing. I'm pretty sure she was wearing a dry suit, and at least where I am, Andy, I don't know where you are, it's still summer. So Kiel really delivering on all of its reputation here for great conditions for sailing, but also a bitter cold somehow, despite our extremely nice experience last time we were there together in a heat wave. But the Steph Roble there and the skippers do get a little chillier in the windy conditions, not letting her deter her, and she's obviously got all the gear and ready to race.
It's not hurting them because they are in the lead now. So the Americans with a 4-point lead, Roble and Shea ahead of Lutz Boyka, who are moving closer and closer to Olympic selection for Tokyo 2021. Dobson and Tidy, that 11th place in that race after restarting that race, sailing back extra distance, puts them down into 3rd overall. And then a little bit of a gap, 7 points, Bud Nielsen and Olsen, who got a 5th in that race. Beckering Dutz, a 4th, pretty respectable in that race, double world champions from the Netherlands, and then in 6th, the reigning world champions from Spain. But it's Roble and Shea that are really impressing at this regatta, and maybe they don't get wind and waves like that in Kiel, but they look very at home despite the cold weather and being togged up as well as they are. Are they wearing a dry suit? That would be pretty unusual, but maybe it really is cold enough to justify the dry suit.
Yeah, well, the crew, Maggie was in a wetsuit, as you'd expect, working hard at the front of the boat. But I'm pretty sure Steph was in a dry suit, which maybe they're coming from Miami and it's such a change in temperature. She's got that on, but anyway, she's got the kit that she needs to sail well, and sail well they have been. That's a team that 2 years ago you wouldn't have picked to be challenging for one of the top spots potentially in Tokyo, and now they've got to be on everyone's list to be one of the teams to look out for in Tokyo, because the way they sailed down in both Auckland and Geelong for our two worlds back to back, and now here lets the world know that they can dial it up in just about all the conditions, and they're a team to watch for sure.
Yeah, which is great news for the USA. It used to be such a powerhouse of Olympic sailing. It's been slim pickings on the medal front for the USA for the best part of 20 years now. So I'm sure there's plenty of American fans that will be cheering them on and hoping that they can convert their newfound form of the last year or so into a medal at Tokyo 2021. Got about 8 or 9 minutes until the start of the next race. Let's take a couple of minutes break and we will be back to you as we get into the starting sequence for the final fleet race of the day in the 49er FX. 2 minutes 30 to the start of the last race of Gold Fleet finals for the 49er FX Skiff. My name's Andy Rice. I'm back with Ben Ramoka, and we will bring you some more action. We've seen plenty in the two races that we've covered just now. Two different race winners, so lots of unforced errors, and that's really not unexpected in these kind of conditions. Kiel Week is throwing some pretty tricky curveballs at this fleet, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, we heard Maggie Shea talk about how happy she was to race in these extreme conditions, and with the offshore location, be able to be pushed as hard as possible. Just taking a look at our drone operator, also having to navigate the windy conditions. So good job to the team there to bring us these pictures. And we've got just under 2 minutes to the start. Looks like a flat or an even approach to the start so far. We see boats on all sides of the line as they figure out where they're going to set up. In the windy conditions, you don't obviously have to set up quite so early as you do in the light. So a lot more options available. Also, pretty sure that's at least one capsized boat in the background there. So this looks visibly windier than we've seen in the previous two races. And let's see how the fleet gets around.
Well, it's still up around 19 or 20 knots, so it looks different, but it's not actually reading that different. We're on a U flag, which means you can't start too early. So we will see a fairly conservative approach to the line, I would have thought. And my read on this is that as long as you've got clear air, as long as you've managed to book a clean lane out at the start, it doesn't matter too much where you start. I might be a little bit wrong about that. Maybe if you come off the pin end, you're being held on longer than you need to be. But it looks like we're under postponement, actually. So
yeah,
the U flag has come down, and for whatever reason, maybe a wind shift, not sure what, but we are now in postponement. So what do you think, Ben, if you are in another part of the world, maybe you're the Brazilians, maybe you're the New Zealanders, what are you thinking when you're watching this? Are you feeling like your opposition are getting ahead of you because they're getting this race practice in and you're not?
Well, I've actually had a couple notes in my channels here from a couple Kiwis who are thinking they wish they were here. Speaking of the Brazilians are actually in the continent of Europe. They were driving to Kiel at one point when their federation asked them to turn around and not participate. So they were very disappointed in that response. I think it's difficult to tell COVID situation from various spots in the world, but they desperately wanted to sail, and I think they're on their way home, if not home already. So imagine the effort. I suppose what we're hearing, no matter where you live, is that adaptability has got to be the name of the game, and everyone is reacting to different, and they're changing all the time. We've had stories of sailors having to pack up on 3-4 hours notice to leave a country, and stories of sailors getting turned around at airports and having to book or go back home and then book new trips. So everyone's just got to take it in stride and be thankful for every day we do get on the water. Pretty sure we must have had just back to the race course here, pretty sure we might have a pin boat needing to be reset. You can see the pin boat there in the foreground of our drone shot, pulling up their anchor. They'll have to drive upwind and reset their pin boat. So maybe they were dragging, or maybe there was a wind shift that needed a complete reset of the course. It'll be at least 5 more minutes till the start. And the teams here, they've already done 3 races. It's windy conditions. They won't be happy to spend any extra time out there waiting, but wait they will, and wait we will too.
And should you wait upright or wait upside down? Because we see 2 teams opting to wait upside down there. What do you reckon is best, Ben?
Waiting upside down, I in my early days, I thought it was a good option, but it really is a terrible option. The boats take a lot of abuse upside down because there's so much load on the sails, actually, just from the small rocking even. They're full of water. So, waiting upside down is not the way to go, although sometimes it's a bit of an unforced necessity.
Yes, it is. No, it really does knacker the sails quite badly, doesn't it? So you can be pretty sure that anyone that we saw capsize there was not doing it out of choice.
Yeah, and then you got to get your boat back upright, and you really should be emptying the water out of your spindle. So you got to pull your spinnaker up and then back down, and it really is quite a bother. But the teams are used to it. Skiff sailors spend plenty of time upside down, and it's nothing new under the sun.
So Giulia Conti coaching the Americans. Why wouldn't Giulia be coaching the Italians? We did speculate about that, but it looks like the best Italian sailor of recent times in the 49er FX is working closely with the Americans, and that's an interesting pairing that seems to be working very well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure of Julie's relationship with the American team, but I do believe she was, at least initially, and I think remains, a private coach to Stephanie Roble and Maggie Shea. So the team hired Giulia, and they obviously came to an agreement where they thought they could work well together, and Giulia wanted to join their team, and from all reports, they all seem very happy together, the three of them, to be working together. That's been probably 2 years now since Giulia joined their team as their coach, and to be honest, their progress has been very good under Giulia's tutelage. Giulia was the 2015 European champion, and I think 2015 world champion as well. So, top sailor, probably could have kept sailing and been a challenger in this quadrennial, but felt it was time to move on and face other challenges. And, she's clearly in love with sailing still and in the fleet, but just doing it from a different spot, from the coach boat. And, with dedicated sailors like Maggie Shea and Steph Roble, it can be a very rewarding experience if you that.
Well, it looks like that pin end boat, the one with the orange flag on the right, is settled. No one's having to put in the hard work lifting the anchor chains. So hopefully that means that we've got a pin end boat where we want it to be. And let's hope that we get into a sequence fairly soon. That's one of the German commentators that we see on the boat with the red flag flying. I think that's Markus Coy, who is one of our equivalents on the German commentary team. And they're on the water doing it live. We're doing it remotely from 2 different continents, Ben. But touch wood, it seems to have gone okay the last few days. I know you're not a big fan of the time zone difference, but in technical terms, we have to tip our hats to our German friends who are making this happen.
No, this is awesome. A couple people I've had to tell I was waking up at 2 a.m. to do some work, and it's easier than flying to Germany. We don't get full experience. We don't get to chat with the sailors and see exactly what's going on. But from a technical point of view, very impressive. And I hope, this is a new partnership with Kieler Woche. They've been giving us their feed to turn into an English podcast. Now this is the 2nd year in a row. And hopefully that gets to share the joy of Kieler Woche to more and more sailors. And also, of course, to bring our sailing fans closer to the action that is this road to Tokyo.
Anna Burnett, the British NACRA sailor that won one of the races yesterday, doing very well in the NACRA fleet, used her on the water interview as an opportunity to make the point to other regattas that if Kieler Woche can do it, if you can put on a safe regatta in the COVID era, then if they can do it here, then maybe there are others around the world that can do it. But there's a huge difference of opinion about that right now as to whether you can safely host a regatta or not. But I know that Kieler Woche are very proud of the processes that they put in place, and the sailors seem to be absolutely loving it, perhaps more than they ever have done, because they now appreciate the privilege of going racing, perhaps more than they have done before as well.
Well, I certainly believe that regattas can be run safely right now. We, of course, are hosting a European Championship in just over 2 weeks in Lake Attersee in Austria. Sailing in and of itself is a very, it's outdoors. The boats, the people in the boats are very far away from each other. And we have worked very hard to minimize the number of onshore things that are going to happen at the regatta. Of course, travel, this is international sailing. So we talked about people from Brazil, and we've got people from America traveling. So perhaps, going through airports and hotels and things like that remains a challenge. But if you're talking about a local regatta, and I know I was talking to one of our local coaches recently, you got to keep your numbers down and maybe limit it to just one fleet at a time. But there's no real reason why you can't be out in the water enjoying yourself and racing. Just ask the race committee to do a little less or do it slower and have fewer people on board the race committee boats, and do your jury hearings by Zoom or not at all, and just go and sail. I mean, why not?
Yeah, and the conference for world sailing also happening remotely. Well, I would argue that should have happened years ago. But anyway, I'll be interested to see how that goes this year. I wonder if it might be more productive than it is when they actually meet in person. Anyway, we're still on a postponement, and so we're going to come back to you. We're going to have hopefully what will only be a quick break, but we will be back to you as we come into the start sequence of this final heat of Gold Fleet Racing in the 49er FX. Just over a minute and 30 seconds to the start of what will be the last race today of the 49er FX Gold Fleet Finals, the top 26 boats in the 51 boat fleet competing to see who goes through to the 10 boat medal race that we will be covering tomorrow, along with the 49er men's medal race. I'm Andy Rice with Ben Ramoka. We are about to bring you the action as we go into the final minute of the start. And Ben, it's still blowing about 19 to 20 knots. They've moved the pin end to even up the line. Where would you want to start on this line?
Well, the fleet is all may not get too much action, but the line is very large. Certainly it should be plenty of room for anyone who needs to get clear air to get clear air. But let's see how they execute with only 45 seconds to go. Can't quite zoom in and see who's where exactly yet, but no doubt we'll see them as they get off the line here. Of course, we're looking for our overall leaders, the Americans, Maggie Shea and Steph Roble, Steph Roble and Maggie Shea. And then locals, Tina Lutz and Susan Boyka, along with the British Charlotte Dobson and Saskia Tidy, all within a few points of each other and all sailing well today. So in these tough conditions, let's see who can take it.
10 seconds to go and everyone's a long, long way back off the line. So this is the time to excel. Let's put the hammer. You're giving away distance here. 3 seconds to go. 2, 1, and no one is close. We see America coming off the line. We see the Italians also coming off the line. They've sailed well this week, but Germany 1-3-3 has the best of the starts. But I think everyone was caught a little bit napping there. The start doesn't matter too much in these conditions, but it matters a little bit more than that. And I was surprised to see the fleet holding back as much as they were.
I think you're seeing the effect of a long. I think you're seeing the effect of a long break between races. There, teams getting cold and tired at the end of a day's sailing, and fleet was clearly not sharp there at the start, as there was a lot of room ahead of them.
Yeah, so there was easy money to be made there, and it looks like the reigning world champions have come out nicely at the middle of the line. That's the Spanish Echegoyen and Barthelo. So nice start for them. Just further up on their shoulder is Beckering and Doots, the double world champions from the Netherlands. So the world champions have made good starts. Lutz and Boyka going out to the right-hand side on port tack in clear air. And the right-hand side seemed to be the safer bet for a lot of the time in the previous race, except we did see the Norwegians move into the lead with a good left-hand shift. So you can't take anything for granted on this race course. But in terms of the boats going this side of the course, ESP23 on the left of picture, fantastic start for the Spanish and looking fast and well-positioned going out to the left-hand side. This is a rerun of the start, and we see there's an awful lot of space on the line, and the fleet generally a little bit slow to accelerate. To be a little bit kinder to them, Ben, as you said previously, they have a transit looking back to the shore as we can see it, but that's the hard one to see. They may not have much of a transit, i.e. something on the shore to line up against when they're looking down the line towards camera position. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they were a little bit line shy. Lutz and Boyka doing very well out.
The main goal is to get off and have clear air, and it's not necessarily to be the one boat length farther ahead. So, as long as you got off this line and had a lane, most of the job is done. So that 1 or 2 boat lengths doesn't always make so much difference when it's windy like this, as long as you've got somewhere to sail.
No, that's absolutely right. It's not the be all and end all in these conditions, and maybe if there's any point in the racetrack which really is critical that we've seen today, it's those leeward gate roundings. They are proving to be extremely tricky as they get down to the bottom of the course and try and get these Jennikers down, and that's where we see the superior boat handling of some of the more experienced teams really come into play. We're with Herzog and Lawrence, the German team, whose hopes of representing Germany a second time in the 49er FX seem to be slipping away because it's the boat on the far side of the track that we can't see. Lutz and Boyka, who are vying for the lead in this race and doing very well on the right-hand side. But meanwhile, on this side, it's the Spanish who tack at the same time as the Norwegians, and now the Italians and the Americans, everyone rolling into a port tack this side of the course. Very good tack.
the Norwegians will be so disappointed with that tack. They were the first ones to tack and then had the Spanish tack almost the exact same time. So now they're facing either a decision to tack again twice or have to suffer in maybe worse air than they would prefer. We're not looking at that team right now. We're seeing Dobson and Tidy just left the screen there for the first time. But yeah, I was just talking about how Nason Runningham now have to pinch for a little bit to keep their lane clear from Echegoyen and Berthello. So after all that sailing on starboard, they end up getting a bit unlucky in their positioning. Far side of the course now, we're back on board with Lutz and Boyka, and you can see Boyka's passing on some sort of information. You can see he's chatting away as they look really lit up. Looks like very strong winds here, and they look like they're in a good spot. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think they are. I think they're looking pretty good. There's still a lot of chat going on and a lot of looking around, considering how far right they are on the fleet. But they're still gauging the situation around them all the time. But they are pretty much the furthest right-hand boat. But it seems like there's opportunities on both sides of this race course, because we've got the Spanish, and on the left-hand side, we've got Lutz and Boyka, the Germans, on the right-hand side. And it seems like they're coming back towards the windward mark, pretty much neck and neck. So not a clear advantage one way or the other up the racetrack. But look at those gusts on the water. Really, really unpredictable gusts, particularly as you get close to the shore on the right-hand side of this track.
Interesting. We're seeing almost the entire fleet converge now, because it's only two-thirds of the way through on both sides of the fleet to go farther up, maybe less so on this closer pack on the left. They're closer to ley line, but the group on the far side all tacked together, so probably they tacked on some sort of shift and came back when what they felt was a lift, because otherwise there's an upside down boat there. I wonder if that's from Silverfleet maybe. And look at all the 29ers coming in from a good day's racing. They're on their way back to shore, so hopefully they go around our race course. But that was a lot of boats out there. I wonder how many boats made it to Kiel Week for 29er sailing. That's great to see. There's our leaders. Just a bit out of focus. So we're looking at race leaders just popping into left of screen there. Echegoyen and Berthello, the Spaniards. And here's the boats from the right side of the course coming back at us. And they're actually going to cross ahead of Spanish. So this is our leading pack here. And I think that first Swedish boat is... Western Nestor. No, it's Bobek and Tengström. So the young Swedish team, Bobek and Tengström, are the right of picture, just going behind the Spanish. And then you're going to see Lutz and Boyka going in front of the Spanish on the left of picture.
But so close between the Spanish who went for the left and Lutz and Boyka who went for the right. Absolutely nothing to choose between them. And the Spanish will pass behind the Germans, but the Spanish have one less tack to complete as well. So there really is nothing to choose between Spain and Germany right now, with Argentina the best of the rest in third place. Plenty of people in contention as we come to the top, and no one's running away with this quite yet.
No, this is the closest beat we've had of the regatta, so the race committee did a good job spending the time to set up so it'd be a nice even fleet. And of course, seems like the wind hasn't dominated from one side yet or the other. But no doubt, as we get closer to the top of the course, we will probably see the deviations and the puffs and shifts increase. So just looking back, we got Maggie Shea and Steph Roble back in 11th, so they'll be hoping for something on the top left of course to pull a few boats back and have another good race.
So Lutz and Boyka being one of the most consistent today, if not the most consistent. That's who we see at the bottom of our picture. That's who we're looking at right now, looking very comfortable in these home conditions on the Kieler Fjord. And the breeze looks like it's really pretty high up there right now. When you see that sea level shot, you can get a sense of just how windy and wavy it is down there. Yotzok and Lawrence, the other German team, a little bit further back, outside of the top 10.
We've got a splash on their screen, so we can't see them through the lens as clearly as we might like. But here's the last up to the windward mark. We've got a couple. Here's Roble and Shea coming in from the left, so they're, I think, the farthest left boat of the people in contention. But I think it's going to be Lutz and Boyka maybe for the lead. I think they're going to be able to stretch out underneath Echegoyen and Barthelo there and take the lead into this windward mark.
I think you're right. So it's going to be those Boyka that are going to lead around the Windward Mark ahead of the reigning world champions from Spain? Look at the gusts on the water, and what will be the key move this time? We've seen the jibe set a number of times. Very unusual manoeuvre to see first time round at the Windward Mark in these short course races. But, who's it going to be this time, and will they be able to execute the Bearaway? The German Bearaway sometimes looks a little bit sketchy to me. It doesn't look like the strongest part of their manoeuvres, but they do get in. That's Boyka now hoisting the Jenica, and they're off and away, and the Spanish have safely hoisted their Jenica, and Bobek and Tengstrom, the young Swedish team, around in third place. The French up there in the fifth place, and now it's getting busy around that Windward Mark. There's America going for the jibe set. The first jibe set boat is the Americans, but it looks they just go out of picture. I think maybe they got away with it, but it looked like the Americans might be in trouble there for a moment.
It did look like in trouble, but I do think they've dived into a nice spot. We also see the Danish boat there jibing. It looks like a nice puff. So opportunity for gains there on the inside of the course. Also, it does look like the boat. But look at that, Thurskog and Olsen up to 20 knots at times. So I think there might be a little more breeze on the other side of the racetrack. Lutz and Boyka, 18 and a half knots, nothing to complain about, I suppose. And good sailing from them. Echegoyen and Barthelo chasing them. Very good. This is the closest race we've seen a day so far, and there's going to be a play for on this down. Lutz and Boyka go for their jibe. Looks like they are sailing into some nice pressure, so safely through on that, and this will be their long jibe of the downwind.
And getting your ley lines right, judging your ley lines in this wildly variable wind, that's proven to be one of the biggest challenges of the day, and how easy have you made it for yourself on the approach to the leeward gate. So you never quite know until you get there, because Lutz and Boyka, it might be that they're on track to the leeward gate now, but a gust and suddenly they might be far below their ley line. Quite tense moments coming down towards the bottom of the course now. Robel and
Look at the difference in
far.
angles here. Look at the difference in angles here between the boats on the left, Lutz and Boyka, and the boats like Robel and Shea and Ben Nielsen and Thurskog Olsen. They're good 10 degrees lower and going maybe a knot or two faster. So big gains on the inside so far from the Americans and Danish when compared to our leading Germans.
That is very true. And the only boat that is breaking over the 20 knots from time to time is the American team. They are half a knot quicker than anybody else downwind. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah,
and quite bumpy. And those cheeky 29er kids, they're sailing through the middle of the course. And that's what I cope with.
We'll have to have a chin wag with them later. They've got to have respect for their elders. But It looks like everyone's navigating safely. And look at the wild ride downwind here. Lutz and Boyka having to navigate the fleets that are going upwind and head to shore after a hard day's race. And, in the lead here, they've got a substantial lead still. But they're going to have one more jibe to do to get through the gate. It looks like they're going to have to go to the unfavored gate as well. So Echegoyen and Barthelo are on a nice line. They might be able to carry through on port and go straight through the gate. So Lutz and Boyka have given themselves quite a bit of work to do at the bottom here with one more jibe and then a douse and a roundup to do all at once. Here's their jibe. Let's see if they get through. Very safe there. That was nicely done. Drop the main sheet, actually, so just rescuing that, and then they're going to go for a douse. So actually all a bit dodgy, but with so little runway, they had a lot to do in one spot.
Yeah, and get that kite down early. That is the thing you want to do here. And even then, the roundup is going to be a little bit tricky, but they managed to get away with that. And that's a very nice rounding, while the Spanish, as you said, Ben, they managed to do that in one. So we've got a split between Spain going out left of picture and the Germans going bottom of picture. And now, who else will be able to execute it?
Bobek and Tengstrom will come through nicely. Shea and Robel had to go around the outside. We also see, I think the Dutch, I presume that was Beckering and Deutz have done well. So, these teams that have, especially Echegoyen and Barthelo, have done really well out of that. And they're probably in the virtual lead now. And I think they've gone through the favorite gate as well, the favorite side of the gate. So a good move there from our Spanish world champions. And the two leading teams going opposite directions up this beat. I wonder if they'll come together early or be happy to split.
Not so good for the French. Bossard and Compagne they kept on the leeward rounding, so the French are going to lose quite a few places at the leeward gates. But we're back with the Lutzenbeuker team of Germany. Didn't quite get all the Jenica away, still a little bit of light blue Jenica poking out. It was quite fraught at the bottom gate, getting the Jenica doused, but it's not going to hurt them too badly. The main thing now is, have they picked the right side of the course, or are they going to manage to pick the right shifts on the course in any case? Because the biggest threat to them right now is on the far side. It's the reigning world champions from Spain who are charging out to the right-hand side of the course.
Look how lumpy it is down there, and they're going to go for their tack and head towards where the Spanish are. I mean, we can't tell from that graphic whether or not the tack looked as ropey as it did on the graphics in real life, but looks like the Spanish have also tacked and have taken the lead. So that right side that looked good downwind is looking also good upwind.
Okay, so maybe it's the Spanish who we're with now, that wearing the yellow jersey, that are in the lead. Let's see. Slightly different trapeze technique from Tamara Eschergoyen. Eschergoyen, also a gold medalist from London 2012 in the women's match racing, which was a short-lived venture for the Olympic scene, but a winner at the highest level and a world champion in 2016, reigning world champion going to the Rio 2016 games, but didn't come away with a medal. Then did the round the world race in the Volvo Ocean race, sabbatical out of the 49er FX. And I wonder if this extra year of lead up to the games is going to suit the Spanish, because they haven't been sailing together that long, Ben. I think that's probably going to put them in the box seat for being real medal potential going into the games next year.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly medal potential. Obviously, world champions this year. Tamara sailed with a girl named Berta Bertenzos in the last quad, and Bertenza, and started sailing with Paula, only, I guess, 18 months ago from now. Now, of course, they made it all the way through to be world champions, so I think they would have been ready for Tokyo in 2020 as well. But yeah, as you say, the extra year might help them out. Already at the top of the game, and Tamara is an outstanding champion, won the 2016 Worlds also, so she's won the 2016 Worlds and the 2020 Worlds, and then, of course, was involved in that epic medal race from Rio, unfortunately for her, coming in fourth from the four boats all tied heading into it.
Germany 29, bottom of our picture, that's Lutzenbeuker still coming out to the left-hand side of the course, hoping to find some kind of shift to get them back towards the centre of the course. They feel like it does feel like they're rather exposed on this side, but they're clearly not getting the shift to take them back into the centre of the course. So,
we're just seeing some 49er sailors now. They're heading down to the race course for their turn to race. The 49er FX is finishing their series here. So just midday, really, in Kiel. In terms of progress, but the final race of the day here for us and for the 49er FX fleet.
So Lutzenbeuker out on the far side on the left, that's the bottom of our screen on the graphic, and Beckering and Dutz have come up into consideration. So it's one set of world champions chasing the other world champions from Spain, and there are the double world champions from the Netherlands, Beckering and Dutz. So they've had a good beat so far, and well, who would count them out? They may well be coming into contention to win this race as well.
Yeah, they've sailed well. They were the second team round the go right gate, and that was slightly favored. And I think at the end, the right side of the course at the bottom has been favored as well. So they've capitalized on that. You can see Susan Boyk and Tina Lutz just about tied with Beckering and Deutsch. So second and third tied on the water, with the Spanish slightly ahead. And then another pack of about 6 or 7 boats all fighting it out for fourth through the rest of the top 10.
Norway Denmark on the left of picture, also in the hunt. Bad Nielsen and Olsen in fourth in this race at the moment, but looking quite good on the right-hand side of the race course. Bit of bent legs there for the Spanish. So
yeah, they're doing a little bit of looking around. I don't know if they just tacked something, but we see actually Tamara Egoyan there. She was sailing with her tiller in a panhandle style on the previous time we checked in with her, and now she's got it in microphone style. So she clearly has a couple different. She likes to sail the boat upwind in the breeze, and now we can see Lutz and Boyka have obviously got something on the left, so they've overtaken both teams and made a pass here as the wind has gotten a little funky and fluky as we get to the top of the course.
Right, so it's come back nicely for the Germans because they looked a little bit exposed. Well, they still are exposed, but the leverage, the wheel has turned in their favour. And they are fully stretched and going fast, charging back towards the right-hand ley line. And there's a lot of other traffic up there as well. There's quite a few ribs, coach boats, boats from other fleets. So that is all part of the traffic that you have to encounter. There's a 29er that just saves itself from capsizing behind the Germans.
Yeah, Kiel Week is a busy place for sailing. It's part of the charm and part of the challenge. Lutz and Boyka here just got that shift. We haven't seen a ton of left shifts do really well on the day, so they've got it when they needed it, and they've overtaken the lead of this race. You can see turned a 3-boat length disadvantage to a 3-boat length advantage over the Spanish. Although the Spanish are closing quickly, and I think maybe Lutz and Boyka are a little bit out of phase right now with just a short way to go to the top marks. So the Spanish are going to take the one last stab at the left, and let's see if Lutz and Boyka can hold on to this lead around the top mark.
The Spanish will also be thinking about the Dutch, Beckering and Dutz, who are somewhere bottom right of our picture, just out of our picture, but they're somewhere over here on the course. So the Germans, they tack now. That probably is their final approach to the windward mark. So I feel like the Germans are in a good position to lead. They've got a bit of a lifting gust there, which will carry them in nicely to the windward mark. So right now, Germany looking good for going round in the lead ahead of Spain and the Netherlands.
I feel like we've watched so many barroways of this German team today, and that's because they've always been in top contention going around the windward mark. So let's see if they can nail their last barroway of the day and hold on for a good victory, well earned.
Yes. Now, I'm always a little bit heart in mouth for these barroways. I feel like they don't look that strong, the barroway. They've got away with it each time, but it partly depends on what the gust is doing as they go round. But certainly the Germans are in the lead. The Spanish go through a fairly sloppy tack there, but they're in second ahead of the Dutch. Now comes the moment. This is the last barroway of the day, and it's beautifully executed. Barroway complete. Now it's into the hoist. What kind of hoist will it be? It's a straight hoist, a straight set, and the Spanish still to come round. So the Germans have got a bit of breathing space, and good barroway by the Spanish, followed by the Dutch, followed by the Norwegians, and quite a gap back to the rest. So the top four on a breakaway. And the light blue kite of the leaders, we're on board with the leaders now. That's Boyka that we can see at the back of the rack standing next to Tina Lutz. No manoeuvres far. And they no reason to when they're going as fast as they are right now. It looks like they're going low and fast. And no one has done the jibe set yet. So it's relatively easy for them to defend with a 90-meter lead over the Spanish.
They were only 10 meters ahead of the Spanish when the Spanish went in for that tack. As you said, it wasn't their best tack. And then seems like the Germans had a better set and a better acceleration. So that 10 meters has turned into 80 based on boat handling and just executing well. So they'll be happy with that. One boat behind us jibed, and here we go. Lutz and Boyka go for their jibe. It's quite windy now.
Well, that's a safety jibe from the Spanish. Yeah, that's the Spanish that have really held on to that Jenica. Look at the breeze coming down behind. This is a serious amount of breeze. So this could change things, and just keeping the boat upright down this final run might be a challenge in itself. The Spanish are fully up to speed now, touching on 20 knots. And Lutz and Boyka, we don't see them, but they're also doing close to 20 knots for the Spanish on an absolute charge after what looked like quite a nervous jibe from the world champions.
It did look like a nervous jibe, but they got away with it. Lutz and Boyka also jibed, so they're directly ahead of the Spanish in great physical position, and especially if they make it into the finish line. But that's, the wind right there is right at the top end of the limit. And they're going to be heading into bigger and bigger waves as they go downwind. So for teams that don't have a good ley line, that means they have to do a jibe in the wavy conditions. For teams like the right that can just sail straight through, which is obviously a much easier thing to have to do. Looks like they're handling it just fine.
Yes, and they're absolutely leaping off the waves. I mean, it's quite choppy as you get down to the bottom of the course. There are windsurfers out there enjoying these conditions, probably feeling a lot more comfortable than these 49er FX sailors, because this is on the edge of control for the 49er FX and these kind of wave conditions.
Yeah, just a little bit to go here, and Lutz and Boyka are above the ley line, so they're going to have one more job to do to the finish, which won't be that easy unless they get quite a header here. Echegoyen and Barcelo, 100 meters back, 90 meters back, so not an immediate threat unless there's an error, and then the teams are farther back from there. But Lutz and Boyka, what a day for them on home waters, with the Olympic selection becoming secure, we think, and they've really nailed it. Every single race they've been in contention. Every maneuver has been decent, if not great, and often great, I should say. And what a great, let's see if they can finish on a high here. And a bit ropey, but on the safe side. You can see how the crew there came across very quickly to make sure that she got on the new wing and there'd be no problems. And they're not really too stressed about their form as they get through the finish line, but just taking everything in stride, and that's it through the finish line for a win. Reaches back for a high five, and they're very happy with it like that today.
Yeah, and quite an easy win for them in the end.
Spanish are overstood, so they're just like I said. That last jibe was going to be a challenge, and
so they get third across the line with their mast. So they finished. We think they finished. So they've only lost one spot, Ben. I mean, it could have been worse. It's a little bit embarrassing, but the reigning world champions have still got third place in this race, I believe, with Argentina coming across in fourth, and then Bad Nielsen and Olsen from Denmark in fifth, getting their Jenica down just before the finish. Robel and Shea crossing the line. But actually, we're not on the finish. We're not seeing Echegoyen recorded as a finish. So no, they actually dropped to eighth. So I thought they'd done enough, but they dropped from second to eighth because of that final.
I think that'll be corrected. I think the GPS probably turns off when it goes underwater. They definitely got through the line.
Yeah.
Any part of your boat go through the line. I think they'll be fine. I think the GPS stops sending a signal when it's underwater, so I wouldn't worry about that. What I would worry about is that we haven't seen Dobson and Tidy yet. So I don't know. Are they in this race? They're all the way down to 20th place. They're showing on the GPS down in 24th place, so maybe they've capsized somewhere along the way. But that makes a big shakeup in the leaderboard, and I think we're going to have the Germans, Lutz and Boyka, in our overall lead here, with Shea and Robel in second. What a day for Tina Lutz and Susan Boyka, who I think German Olympic selection, taking the lead in Kieler into the final day, and of course got to show off on the TV day.
Yes, absolutely. And they have sailed so well today, so consistently, as have the Americans. They've had a fantastic day. But I'm still looking for this purple Jenica of the British team, and I still don't see it. So I don't know what's happened to them, because they normally have these kind of races in this kind of condition. That's just meat and drink to them. Normally they are one of the best boat handlers. They're one of the fastest boats. I don't know what happened to them. They started the day so well, then they went back to restart when maybe they didn't need to, and we haven't really seen them for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
there is one possibility. That capsized boat that we're looking at, could that be the British? I don't know, but someone is there agonizingly close to the finish line, and they're not quite there.
Yeah, no, I've just found them on the tracker, so they're actually still in the top third of the downwind leg. So anyways, here's how the race was won. What do we got for speed here? Yeah, like you thought, Andy, top speed for Tina Lutz and Susan Boyka here. They've got the highest average speed, and we saw just how fast they were going downwind at times. So quite a high distance sailed, but at a very rapid pace.
Yes, absolutely. So unusual to see the winner sailing the longest distance. Of course, you want to sail the shortest distance if you can possibly manage it. I had a bit
we
of
saw them.
intel.
We saw them go around. Sorry, we saw them go around the gate that wasn't favored because they sort of had to, and then it didn't seem like they got the best shift at the very beginning of the second upwind. So that's probably where a lot of that extra distance came in. But then they pulled a good shift out at the top of the beat, and then a bit of superior boat handling and some great speeds held them through to win the race.
As for those Brits, I've just been sent a message to say that they had a capsize up halfway up the first beat of that race. So extremely unusual for anybody to capsize on a windward leg, let alone the top British, who were second in the World Championships, let's not forget, at the start of the year. So we're talking about a world-class team. And goes to show just how tricky it was out there, Ben. Really easy for us to observe. I was a little bit tough on the Germans and their bearaways, but you and I both know how hard it is to execute the bearaway in a 49er. And
well, without video proof to the contrary, I'd like to say that all my bearaways were perfect in my career.
Right, we'll go back and look at what we can find and see if we can confirm that. Meanwhile, let's look at the overall leaderboard. So neck and neck, going into the medal race tomorrow, it will be a case of who beats who between Germany and the USA. But even with that 24th in the last race, Dobson and Tidy are still in podium position and still with a chance of winning overall if all the cards were to fall in favour. But Dobson and Tidy, their chances of winning gold or silver very more than they were a couple of races back. And just behind them are a whole gaggle of boats. The Danes, the Dutch, and the Spanish, who, yes, we see they finished third in that race. You were absolutely right, Ben. The GPS recorded them 8th across the line, but they were given third by the race committee. So the reigning world champions managed to get a third from that race, and they are in medal contention tomorrow. So realistically, you would say it's a 6-boat race for 3 medals tomorrow. There are mathematical chances for the Italians and the Argentinians as well. But the way that Lutz, Boyka and Robel and Shea have been sailing, I'd say that we're looking at a match race for gold and silver between Germany and USA. Would you agree, Ben?
Yeah, I'd say that's how it shapes up. We've got a real 1v1 for the top spot, and then another 4 boats who are in great contention for a bronze medal out of this first championship back to racing in 2020.
Okay, so couldn't ask for better conditions for some good spectator sport, and I suspect the sailors really loved it out there. So
sorry to interrupt you, Andy, but just to say, I think we saw Jersak and Lorenz there, the second German team, in 11th. So that would not get them a medal race spot tomorrow, and therefore, if Lutz and Boyka have wrapped up the German trip to the games, that might be the last race we see, the last day we see Jersak and Lorenz sailing their 49er FX. I suspect they're going to retire at the end of this quad, and they've been in the fleet since the start, and just bye to them. And it's always tough to see top teams have to fall short of their aspirations, but they've gotten beaten by a team here that is clearly on top of their game, and as we can see them being interviewed on German TV, Tina Lutz and Susan Boyka, well deserving of their first trip to the Olympics.
Oh, well, good spot, Ben. But a sad observation as well that, yes, maybe that is the end of the 49er FX career for Herzog and Lawrence, who have been sailing together for so long and came close to the podium in Rio 2016. And they were only a couple of places outside the medal race. But they can't have any complaints about German selection because I can't see it going any other way now. That looks... They've got big, wide grins, and of course they sound incredibly well today. And maybe Lutz and Boyka know that they've done enough to be going to Tokyo. They've been pushing for Olympic selection for so long now, and they really have hit a new stride, a new level in the way that they're sailing the 49er FX. They showed the rest of the fleet a clean pair of heels today.
Yeah, and we'll get to see tomorrow whether they can finish off this Kieler Woche with a victory. Of course, the Americans, Robel and Shea, will have something to say about that, but it's shaping up for an exciting race.
And we see the difference in headwear there between the helm and the crew. So like the observation you made about Steph Robel and Maggie Shea, it was Steph Robel was togged up for winter and Maggie Shea looking like it was summer. It's the same for Lutz and Boyka, and it just goes to show how much more work the crew does at the front of the boat. Physically a much more demanding role. So Suzanne Warm doing a job. Tina Lutz stands there at the back steering the boat and shivers, which is why she's wearing the hat to keep her warm. And here is
great body language there. Sorry, great body language there from Susan Boyka. At the end of a 4-race, physically challenging day, you could see her with a big grin on her face, looking very relaxed. She should be tired as anything, and seems fresh and ready to go. So obviously, she's put in the time on her fitness over this break and the boat handling as well, because they've got through a really challenging day and just got better and better as the day went on, and clearly have enough for jokes and smiles even at the end.
Yes, yeah, good observation there, Ben. She should be laid out flat on her back, taking a breather, because that's cardiovascularly very, very hard work what the crews do. A little bit ragged on the finish in that final race. It wasn't the best looking finish, but a win's a win, and they won that race.
I think they knew exactly what they had to do to get through the finish line. I don't think they were trying to make it look at that point, just make sure the boat stayed upright. You've got some news for us, do you?
Yes, I've just been told that actually it won't be medal race format tomorrow. It's just a continuation of the final series. So we've got 2 more finals races to do tomorrow. So it'll still be a 26 boat fleet that we see out there. So maybe in that sense, we haven't seen the last of Herzog and Lawrence.
Okay, well, I guess we confirm that before we start tomorrow then. So regular racing tomorrow does make sense in a 4-day regatta to skip the medal race. We're actually skipping the medal races in our Europeans next month too, to reduce the number of on-water jury that we require and everything. So good to see that the folks in Kiel have all their ducks lined up and good plans, and great racing for us to watch tomorrow.
Yeah, so the plan is from 11 a.m. local time that we will be watching the 49ers, and then we will be watching the 49er FXs. And I think we've still got great breeze on the Kiel Fjord tomorrow. We've been so blessed with absolutely fantastic conditions watching the 49ers, then the Nacras, and today the 49er FXs. And if we can just have more of the same, that will be 4 fantastic days of spectator sport that we've enjoyed, Ben. So thanks for getting up early again. Well, in fact, you hardly went to bed. You were playing ice hockey at midnight last night. I mean, we always knew the Canadians were slightly crazy, but I didn't know you were that crazy. So I guess you're going to go to bed right now. I'm going to have some lunch. We're going to sign off, and we will see you tomorrow for the final races of the 49er and the 49er FX. See you then.